The late summer sun dipped low over Lakeview Hollow, casting a warm golden sheen across the still water. A small lakeside cabin sat nestled among the pines, its weathered wood blending into the landscape like it had grown there. 7-year-old Tommy Miller stood at the lake's edge, barefoot in the cool mud, skipping flat stones across the surface. His dark curls bounced with each throw, and his freckled cheeks glowed pink from the day's heat. His red t-shirt hung loose, patched at the elbow, and his shorts were streaked with dirt from hours of play. The cabin was Tommy's favorite place, far from the bustle of town, where he could escape the kids who poked fun at his small size and quiet ways. Here, it was just him, the lake, and the adventures he dreamed up. A faint rustling broke the rhythm of his throws. Tommy paused, stone in hand, and tilted his head. The sound came again, soft, like a sigh, from the thick reeds near the shore. Curiosity tugged at him, stronger than the breeze ruffling his hair. He dropped the stone and crept closer, pushing through the tall grass. His breath caught. There, half hidden in the mud, lay a dog, a Labrador Retriever, its golden fur matted with grime. One hind leg twisted awkwardly, crusted with dried blood, and its sides heaved with shallow, labored breaths. The dog's brown eyes lifted to meet Tommy's, weary but warm, like they'd been waiting for him. "Mom! Dad!" Tommy yelled, spinning on his heel. He sprinted back to the cabin, his sneakers forgotten by the porch, and burst through the screen door. "There's a dog. He's hurt bad, by the lake." Ellen Miller turned from the kitchen counter, a knife poised over a carrot, her apron dusted with flour from rolling dough. Mike, lounging in a chair with a fishing magazine, lowered it slowly, his bushy eyebrows knitting together. "A dog," he said, voice gruff from years of shouting over tractor engines. "Out here in the middle of nowhere." "Yeah." Tommy bounced, tugging at Mike's flannel sleeve. "He's all dirty and his legs bleeding. We gotta help him, please." Mike rubbed his beard, skeptical. "Could be a stray, Tommy. Might be sick, or worse, mean. You don't go near it till I check." "He's not mean." Tommy's voice rose, insistent. "I saw his eyes, they're nice. He's scared, Dad, not mad. Please." Ellen set the knife down, wiping her hands. Her hazel eyes softened as she looked at her son's flushed face. "Slow down, sweetie. We'll take a look. If he's hurt, we can't just leave him out there." Mike grunted, unconvinced, but stood anyway. "Fine, but you stay back, you hear?" He grabbed a flashlight from the shelf, and Ellen pulled an old blanket from the hall closet, filling a bowl with water from the sink. Tommy led the way, practically dragging them down the path to the lake, his heart thudding with worry and hope. The dog was still there, a muddy heap among the reeds. Its chest rose and fell unevenly, and it let out a weak whine as they approached. Up close, Tommy saw how thin it was, ribs sharp under its skin, fur patchy with burrs and scratches. But those eyes held him, deep and trusting, like they saw something in him worth believing in. "Poor thing," Ellen murmured, kneeling a safe distance away. She slid the water bowl forward with the tip of her finger. "He's been through it, hasn't he?" Mike shone the flashlight over the dog, squinting. "Legs bad. Looks like a deep cut, not just a scrape. No tags I can see, but there's a collar. Faded though, hard to read." Tommy ignored the warning and crouched closer, holding out a trembling hand. "Hey, buddy," he said, voice soft as a whisper. "It's okay. I'm Tommy." The dog's nose twitched, and it stretched its neck to lap at the water, tongue rough and dry. Tommy grinned, big and bright. "See? He likes me. He's too weak to do much else," Ellen said, but she smiled. "He's not growling. That's a good sign." "We can't leave him here," Tommy said, turning to his parents. His brown eyes were wide, pleading. "He'll die if we don't help." Mike sighed, long and heavy, rubbing the back of his neck. "Taking in a stray's a big deal, kiddo. We don't know where he's been or what's wrong with him. Please, Dad." Tommy's voice cracked. "He came right to me. That means something, doesn't it? The dog lifted its head a fraction, looking at Tommy again. Its tail gave a single, feeble thump against the mud, and that was enough. Ellen nodded at Mike. He's right. We can't leave him. Let's get him to the shed, clean him up. We'll call Doc Peters in the morning. Mike relented. All right, shed it is. But he stays there till we know he's safe. Tommy's face split into a grin. Thanks. I'm calling him Max. He looks like a Max, strong and cool. He grabbed the blanket and spread it out, bouncing with excitement as Mike and Ellen carefully lifted the dog. Max whimpered but didn't fight, his eyes never leaving Tommy. They settled him in the shed, a cozy nook behind the cabin, with the blanket, water, and a scrap of hamburger Ellen slipped him. Tommy stayed close, kneeling beside him. You're safe now, Max, he whispered. I'll take care of you. Promise. Max's eyes followed him, steady and warm, like he'd found exactly who he'd been searching for. The next few days turned the shed into Max's kingdom, and Tommy was his devoted keeper. He hauled in an old pillow from the couch, a chipped bowl for kibble Ellen, picked up in town, and a brush he dug out of Mike's toolbox. Every morning, Tommy bolted out there before breakfast, sitting cross-legged on the wooden floor, combing Max's tangled fur until the gold started peeking through the dirt. Max ate slow at first, nibbling at scraps of chicken or bread crusts Tommy sneaked him, but by the third day, he'd scarf down anything, kibble, a strip of bacon, even a corner of Ellen's cornbread. You're getting chubby, Tommy teased, scratching Max's ears. Max's tail thumped the floor, steady and happy, and he'd nudge Tommy's hand for more. Ellen watched from the cabin porch one afternoon, a mug of tea steaming in her hands. He likes you best, Tommy, she said, smiling. Look at him, he's glued to your side. Tommy beamed, tossing a stick for Max to chew. We're best friends, right, boy? Max barked, short and sharp, like he was saying yep. His leg was still tender, but he'd hobble after Tommy around the yard, never straying far. Mike wasn't so quick to fall for it. He's perking up, I'll give him that, he said over supper, cutting into a pork chop. But a dog that size doesn't just wander out here alone. Someone's got to be missing him. Then why's he hurt? Tommy asked, pushing peas around his plate. Maybe he ran away 'cause they were bad to him. Maybe, Mike said, chewing slow. Doc Peters'll tell us more tomorrow. Could have a chip or something. Doc Peters rolled up the next morning in his rusty pickup, a wiry man with thick glasses and a black bag slung over his shoulder. Tommy hovered by Max's side in the shed, clutching the brush like a shield. The vet knelt down, running gentle hands over Max's ribs. Labrador Retriever, about 5 or 6 years old, he said, checking the injured leg. This cut's deep. Looks like a blade, not a claw or thorn. He's been starving a while, but he's a fighter. Legs sprained, not broken, lucky boy. A blade. Ellen's voice tightened, standing in the doorway. You mean someone cut him on purpose? Could be, Doc Peters said, pulling a scanner from his bag. Folks can be cruel. Let's see if he's chipped. He waved the device over Max's neck, and it beeped faintly. Got one. Old model, data's worn. Says Max, MW. That's all I can pull. MW. Tommy echoed, petting Max's head. Who's that? Initials, probably, Doc Peters said, packing up. I'll call shelters, see if anyone's looking for a lab. Keep him rested. He'll heal with time and food. Tommy didn't care about MW. Max was his now, chip or no chip. He spent every day with him, dragging a tennis ball from the garage and rolling it across the grass. Max would limp after it, tail wagging like a metronome, and bring it back to drop at Tommy's feet. You're my shadow, Tommy said one afternoon, flopping onto the lawn. Max flopped beside him, resting his big head on Tommy's chest, his breath warm and steady. Tommy giggled, running his fingers through Max's fur. With Max around, he didn't feel so small or quiet anymore. He felt like he could do anything. But then Max started acting strange. Every evening, He'd limped to the cabin's back window, pressing his nose to the glass, staring out at the lake. One night, Tommy crept up beside him, following his gaze. Max was fixated on an old dock sticking out into the water, a crooked, rotting thing, tilting into the waves. Max whined, low and urgent, pawing at the floor like he wanted to go there. "What's out there, Max?" Tommy whispered, but Mike's voice boomed from the hall. "Tommy, bedtime now." Mike stood there, arms crossed. "Stop staring out windows and get some sleep." "But Dad," Max keeps looking at the dock. Tommy said, pointing. "He wants to show me something." Mike sighed, steering him to bed. "Dogs don't show things, kiddo. He's just restless. We'll figure it out later." The next day, Mike asked around town about MW while picking up bait. Mr. Grady, the grizzled old man at the tackle shop, had the scoop. "Matthew Warren," he said, counting change into Mike's palm. "Lived out by the lake years back. Vietnam vet. Came home with money, bought up land. Turned into a hermit after a while. Had a big yellow lab with him always. Died last winter. Heart quit on him." "A lab?" Mike leaned forward. "Like the one we found." "Sounds right," Mr. Grady said, shrugging. "House is empty now. Nephew's been sniffing around, though. Carl, shifty fella." Mike came home and told Tommy and Ellen over lunch. "Matthew Warren, MW, he said, sipping his soda. "Max might have been his dog," explains the caller. Tommy's eyes widened, sparkling. "A soldier's dog? That's so cool." He bolted to the shed, plopping beside Max on the blanket. "You're a hero's buddy, aren't you?" Max wagged his tail, pressing his nose into Tommy's hand, warm and solid. Ellen watched from the doorway, a soft smile tugging her lips. If he was Matthew's, he must have meant the world to him. Look how fast he took to Tommy. Mike nodded, but his brow furrowed. "Yeah, but why'd he leave that dock? And who cut him?" Tommy didn't hear the questions. He was too busy hugging Max, dreaming of a brave man and his brave dog, and the secrets Max might carry from that lonely life by the lake. Max was a new dog by the end of that first week. His golden fur gleamed under the late summer sun, and the limp in his hind leg was barely a hitch. He bounded after Tommy along the lakeshore, chasing sticks into the shallows and shaking water off in a glittering spray. Tommy laughed, his curls plastered to his forehead, as Max dropped a soggy twig at his feet. "You're the fastest, Max," he said, scratching the dog's wet ears. Max barked, tail wagging like a windshield wiper, and raced off again. Ellen watched from the cabin porch, her tea cooling in her hands. "He's a different animal with you, Tommy," she called. "You've brought him back to life." Mike stayed on edge, though. "He's too smart to be some lost mutt," he said that evening, tinkering with a fishing reel at the kitchen table. "That dock he keeps staring at, it's not random. Something's out there. Can we go see it, Dad?" Tommy asked, bouncing on his chair. "Max wants us to." "I know he does." Mike glanced at Ellen, his jaw tight. She set her mug down, thoughtful. "Might be worth a look. If it's tied to Matthew Warren, could be something he left behind. Closure for Max, maybe." "All right," Mike said after a long pause. "Tomorrow morning. But you stick by me, Tommy, no wandering." The next day dawned clear, the lake a mirror under the rising sun. They trudged along the shore, Max tugging Tommy forward with eager steps. His collar jangled, the faded MW catching the light. The old dock came into view, a sagging relic of gray wood, leaning into the water, beside a crumbling boathouse tucked in the reeds. Max made a beeline for the boathouse, nosing the warped door and scratching at it with his good paw. "He's after something," Tommy said, pushing the door open. It groaned, revealing a dim, musty space, tangled fishing nets, a rusted outboard, motor, and a floor patched with uneven boards. Mike clicked on his flashlight, sweeping the beam inside. "Watch your step, kiddo. This place is a wreck." Max darted to a corner, where the floor dipped slightly, and pawed at it hard, whining loud and sharp. "There's something under there, Dad," Tommy said, dropping to his knees beside Max. Mike crouched, shining the light over the spot. The boards were newer than the rest, nailed tight, their edges cleaner against the weathered wood around them. "Somebody fixed this up," Mike said, running a finger along a seam. "Hold Max back. I'll take a look." Before he could move, a shadow fell across the doorway. "What are you folks doing in my uncle's shed?" A man stepped forward, lean and unshaven, with cold blue eyes and a shovel gripped in one hand. His voice was rough, like he smoked too much. "I'm Carl. This land's mine now, get out." "Matthew Warren's nephew?" Ellen asked, standing straighter. "We found his dog, Max. He brought us here." Carl's gaze snapped to Max, narrowing. "That fleabag? Should have known he'd still be nosing around. Uncle Matt stashed cash, big money, and I'm here to claim it." He tapped the shovel against his boot. "Hand over the mutt and clear out, or I'll make you." "He's ours," Tommy said, stepping in front of Max. His small fists clenched, and Max growled, a deep rumble, hackles rising along his back. Carl sneered, taking a step closer. "Cute kid. Last chance move." Mike squared his shoulders, blocking the doorway. "We're not looking for trouble. But this ain't yours till a judge says so. We're leaving, for now." He grabbed Tommy's arm, pulling him back as Max kept growling, eyes locked on Carl. Ellen ushered them out, and they retreated to the cabin, Max's barks echoing behind them. Tommy couldn't sit still that night. "We gotta go back, Dad," he said, pacing the kitchen floor, Max trailing him like a shadow. Max was digging for something important. "It's not safe," Ellen said, pouring milk into a glass. "That Carl guy's bad news. He's got a mean streak." "But Max knows," Tommy pleaded, his voice cracking. "He's trying to tell us, please." Mike rubbed his face, weary. "Okay. Tomorrow, I'll call Sheriff Lee, get his okay. We'll do it right. But tonight, you sleep." Tommy nodded reluctantly, curling up in the shed with Max that night. "We'll figure it out, boy," he whispered, stroking Max's fur. Max licked his hand, warm and steady, like a promise. The next morning, Mike got Sheriff Lee on the phone. He'd told them to check the boathouse, but call if trouble showed up. They headed back, Mike carrying a pry bar from the shed. Carl was nowhere around, and the boathouse stood quiet, waves lapping at the dock. Max went straight to the corner again, scratching at the boards with both paws. Mike wedged the pry bar under the wood and heaved, popping them loose with a splintery groan. A wooden chest sat nestled in the dirt below, small, locked, its edges damp from years by the lake. "Whoa," Tommy breathed, kneeling beside it. Ellen worked the rusty latch open, revealing a stash of silver dollars glinting. In the flashlight's beam, a leather pouch of military medals and a folded note in shaky script. Mike read it aloud. "For someone who'll use it right, not my greedy kin. Max'll pick him. Matthew Warren." "Wow," Tommy said, touching a coin. Max was guarding this. For Matthew. Mike shook his head, stunned. "Enough here to change things. Matthew didn't want Carl anywhere near it." "Then we won't let him have it," Tommy said, fierce. He hugged Max tight. "Right, boy?" Max barked, tail thumping hard against the floorboards. They hauled the chest back to the cabin, locking it in Mike's tackle box under the sink. That evening, Tommy sat on the porch with Max, the lake shimmering under the sunset. The coins and medals danced in his mind, but Max's weight against his side mattered more. "You're so smart," he said, rubbing Max's back. "Matthew trusted you, and now I do too." Max leaned into him, solid and warm. Tommy knew Carl wouldn't give up easy, but with Max beside him, he wasn't scared. Not one bit. The night was thick and still, the lake a black mirror beyond the cabin windows. Until Max's growl ripped through the silence. Tommy jolted awake on the shed floor, his blanket tangled around him, heart hammering. Max stood rigid, ears up, staring at the door. The clock on the wall glowed 1:43 a.m. A shadow flickered past the shed window, too tall, too fast. Max nudged Tommy hard, whining sharp, and bolted to the door, barking loud enough to rattle the walls. "Dad!" Tommy shouted, scrambling up. He ran into the cabin, bare feet slapping the floor, and shook Mike awake. "Someone's out there?" Max saw him. Mike lurched out of bed, grabbing the unloaded hunting rifle from the closet, more for weight than bullets. Ellen snatched her phone, dialing Sheriff Lee with shaky fingers. "Stay here," Mike ordered, but Tommy grabbed his arm. "Max needs us." They crept to the shed, Mike gripping the rifle, Tommy clutching Max's collar. The door banged open, and Carl loomed in the frame, shovel raised, eyes glinting wild in the moonlight. "Gimme that dog in the chest," he snarled. "Now, or you're done." "No way," Tommy yelled, stepping forward. Max lunged, teeth sinking into Carl's shin. Carl howled, swinging the shovel down, clipping Max's shoulder. Max yelped but held fast, growling fierce, dragging Carl off balance. Mike charged, slamming the rifle stock into Carl's arm. The shovel clattered to the dirt, and Carl staggered, cursing loud. Max backed off, blood matting his fur, but stood firm between Tommy and Carl, snarling low. Ellen yanked Tommy inside, slamming the cabin door and locking it tight. Through the window, Tommy saw Mike tackle Carl into the grass, pinning him as. Headlights flared. Sheriff Lee's cruiser roared up, siren wailing. 2 deputies leaped out, cuffing Carl as he thrashed and spat. "Caught him cold," Sheriff Lee said, nodding to Mike. "Breaking in, assault. He's going away for a while." Mike stumbled back, breathless. "You okay, Tommy?" Tommy nodded, tears prickling as he knelt by Max. A shallow gash oozed on Max's shoulder, but his tail wagged slow, steady. "You saved us, boy," Tommy whispered, burying his face in Max's fur. Max licked his cheek, warm and sure, like nothing could break him. Ellen draped a quilt over Tommy's shoulders. "He's a fighter, just like you said." Tommy smiled through the blur, Max's warmth chasing the fear away. Carl was gone, and Max was still his. Morning broke gentle over the lake, mist curling off the water as the sun climbed. Sheriff Lee called later. Carl was locked up, facing years for breaking in and swinging that shovel. The chest stayed safe in Mike's tackle box, and the Millers gathered around the kitchen table, the note and medals spread out between them. "Matthew wanted this for good," Mike said, flipping a silver dollar. "We'll fix the cabin, help some folks in town. Rest goes to the veteran's home, honors his wish." Tommy nodded, petting Max's bandaged shoulder. "Max made it happen. He's ours now, right?" Ellen smiled, brushing crumbs off the table. "Sheriff says no one's claiming him. He's family if we want him." "Forever?" Tommy asked, eyes huge. "Forever," Mike said, ruffling his curls. "He earned it." Life shifted after that. They patched the cabin roof with some of the coins, bought Max a new collar with Miller, etched in bold letters, and sent the rest to the VA in Matthew's name. Tommy wasn't the quiet kid anymore. He'd race Max along the shore, shouting and laughing, telling anyone who'd listen about his hero dog. Max slept by his bed each night, waited by the lake every afternoon for Tommy to tromp back from the bus stop. One evening, Tommy sat on the dock, legs dangling over the edge, Max sprawled beside him. The sun sank low, painting the water red and gold. "You're the best, Max," Tommy said, leaning against him. "Matthew picked you to guard his stuff, but you picked me. That's the coolest thing ever." Max rested his head on Tommy's lap, brown eyes glowing warm and steady, like he'd always known this was home. "I'll keep you safe, too," Tommy promised, scratching behind Max's ears. Max huffed, a happy little sound, and closed his eyes, soaking in the last rays of light. Weeks later, Tommy stood by the lake, a new backpack slung over his shoulder for the first school day. Max sat close, tail thumping as the bus rolled up. "See you soon, boy," Tommy said, hugging him tight. Max barked once, watching until the bus vanished around the bend. Ellen joined Max on the porch, coffee in hand. "He's happier than I've ever seen him," she said, nodding toward the shore. Max wagged his tail like he agreed. That night, Tommy dreamed of running with Max through the reeds, Matthew's boathouse fading into mist. He woke smiling, Max's solid weight pressed against his side. Some dogs were more than pets. They were guardians, friends, family. Max was all